Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Weather Sim forecast. And in today's forecast, we're going to be talking about what we could see as we get into the summer months of June, July, and even August, which this summer is going to be a lot different than what we saw over the past few years, and we will talk about why. But before that, we still got some chances for severe storms over the next few days, including today, where there's still a chance for some isolated severe storms, but at the same time, we are actually getting a pretty good break from severe storms compared to what we've been dealing with. So it is good news that we will get a break from severe weather, and this is exactly why we're going to be talking about what we could see as we get into the summer months. So make sure to stay tuned to the end so that we guys have an idea of what to expect as we get into the summer months. And we'll first start off before looking at the summer months by going over what we could see over the next few days, by starting off by looking at today, because once again we still got some chances for isolated severe storms across extreme southern Texas, back over there into the panhandle of Florida, southern Georgia. We also got another one up here towards the upper Ohio Valley, but we also got two slight risks for severe storms, which means we might see a little bit more in the way of severe weather. It's not going to be anything crazy, but we could see some isolated severe storms, not just across the coastal areas of North Carolina, but also over there towards Arkansas and Missouri, which we will keep an eye on very closely for today, but it's not going to be anything too crazy, so we're not really too concerned about today, and nor are we concerned about tomorrow or even the day after tomorrow, because once again, this isn't going to be anything crazy, at least not compared to what we saw over the past few days. This is just going to be, a threat for a few isolated severe storms, but overall the chances of severe storms appear to be very low. So we will keep an eye on it, but it doesn't look to be anything too crazy for today, which once again, that's an indication that we're really getting a big break from severe storms, so you guys don't really need to be taking anything too seriously from now on. But let's also take a look at what we could see as we get into the summer months, because once again, this summer is going to be a lot different compared to what we've seen over the past few years. So let's first start off by going over the temperatures as we head throughout the rest of May, through the month of June, and even into the beginning of July. This is just a guess of what we could see. This is just one model, so we can't really say exactly if this is going to happen, but this model is saying that areas across the east may see a little bit of a cooler than normal summer across areas of the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and also the Northeast. So we will need to keep an eye on that area very closely, as I do think areas across the east could see below normal temperatures as we head throughout the rest of May into the month of June and even into the beginning of July. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to see below normal temperatures every day, but this is just saying like overall. So there will at least be a few days where we experience those below normal temperatures, but like I said, it won't be every day. This is just talking about your average temperature for that time frame starting today and continuing into the beginning of July. So we will keep an eye on the eastern United States very closely, as I do think once again we could see a little bit of a different, temperature anomaly during the month of June compared to what we would usually expect. And at the same time, we are also going to be warming up significantly across areas of the western United States, where we do expect there to be a very hot summer this year. This is going to be an area where we could be talking about not only scorching hot temperatures, but also well below normal precipitation. So that just goes to show you that there's going to be a cutoff between the western United States and also the eastern United States. I'm drawing that line right here so that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, because areas west of this line are likely going to be seeing above normal temperatures as we head into the month of June. Areas areas east of this line will likely still be seeing above normal temperatures at times, but we'll also have a chance of seeing below normal temperatures too. And like I said, that's just a prediction as we head into the month of June. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, doesn't mean we'll be right or wrong about it, but this is just giving us an idea that we could be seeing, once again, a below normal June as we head into the next couple of weeks. And like I said, that might even continue once we enter the month of July as well, which we will keep an eye on very closely. Now, the other thing to look at is also precipitation. Precipitation is also going to be very interesting this year, because with that sign of below normal temperatures, that tells us that as we head into the month of June, we could be talking about a lot of cold fronts rolling on through. Not like cold fronts that are going to drop those temperatures all the way down into the 50s, but cold fronts that will definitely drop those temperatures somewhat. And usually when we see those cold fronts rolling on through, I'll go ahead and draw one so that way you guys know what a cold front kind of looks like. But let's say a cold front was rolling on through kind of like this. This would trigger showers and thunderstorms across much of the eastern United States, because out of the head of that cold front, this is what a warm front looks like, kind of like this, where warm moist air surges in from the Gulf of Mexico. We would likely be seeing, once again, warm moist air surge on in from the Gulf, which once again would increase those chances for showers and even thunderstorm chances as we head into the month of June. So like I said, this is going to be something that we're really going to need to keep an eye on as we head into the month of June and perhaps even into July. So something that we really need to keep an eye on closely, as I do think June will be a very active month once again, with not just below normal temperatures but also above normal precipitation, as there is the potential to see anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of rainfall across some of these areas, which we will keep an eye on very closely, as much of the areas east of this line will likely be seeing a much wetter than normal June. But once again, that is still uncertain, so we can't say exactly if this is going to be the case or not, but we will keep an eye on it very closely, as rainfall totals between 5 to 10 inches will also likely lead to well above normal precipitation across the east, especially where you see those blues. And then once again, we're going to be seeing a much drier than normal summer even across the west, which we will keep an eye on very closely as we head throughout the rest of May, and especially as we head throughout the rest of June. Let's also talk about what we could see as we get into the later part of summer, because looking very far out is even more uncertain. But if we look at the water temperatures, this is what gives us the best idea on what we could see as we get into the later part of summer, because from what models are showing, this is showing that we could see a neutral phase as we head throughout the rest of summer and maybe even continuing into the fall. I'm drawing a box right here so that you guys know where the neutral phase is, because some of these models might be covering those lines. But this is a neutral phase right here, and you guys can see that most of the models are right in this box, which indicates that we will indeed see a neutral phase, since we got very good model agreement. So we really need to keep an eye on that very closely once again, as we do have some very good model agreement of seeing a neutral phase, since most of these models are showing it in between the negative 0.5 and the positive 0.5, which once again in this box right here is a neutral phase. And with most of these models showing that is some good agreement that we will likely be seeing a neutral phase as we head into the later part of summer. But the other question that we're trying to figure out is, will we see temperatures being closer to El Nino or being closer to La Nina? Because if we see temperatures closer to an El Nino, like about right here, but still in the neutral phase box, because you guys can see that that line that I just drew is still in the neutral phase box, but closer to an El Nino, which is right up here. I'll draw an E for that. This is El Nino up here, and this is La Nina down here. So if the temperatures are closer to an El Nino, but still in that neutral phase, that indicates that we may see a little bit less of an active hurricane season, which is what we're hoping for. But a lot of the models, at least more of them, are saying that we could once again be seeing a neutral phase, but more of the models are saying that those water temperatures in the neutral phase will be closer to La Nina, okay? So if we see water temperatures closer to a La Nina, but still in a neutral phase, this might indicate a little bit more of an active hurricane season. Once again, it really matters where those water temperatures are in the neutral phase, because once again, if they're closer to El Nino but still in that neutral phase, that would indicate a less active hurricane season. But if they're closer to La Nina, but still in that neutral phase, that would indicate a little bit more of an active hurricane season. So that just goes to show you that I think as we get into the summer, we will likely be seeing these water temperatures, at least from what I'm seeing right here, because this is kind of what we're seeing between El Nino and La Nina right here, because once again, more of the models are showing that we'll be closer to a La Nina, including some of these showing maybe even a weak La Nina potentially, but more of them want to show most of those water temperatures being in the neutral phase, but once again, still close to a La Nina, which would indicate a more active hurricane season. So that will be the main thing to watch for as we get into the later part of summer. And like I said, from what we've seen, it sounds like we're going to be in a neutral phase, but those water temperatures will be closer to a La Nina, which indicates the potential for a more active hurricane season this year, which we will keep an eye on very closely. Now, what about NOAA? That's the last thing I want to look at, is what NOAA is saying, because from what they're saying that as we head into the later part of summer, especially July, August, and September, they still want to show the chances being up there for a neutral phase. They still want to show a pretty high probability of a neutral phase occurring, but they also want to increase those chances of seeing a La Nina, because once we get into October, November, and December, which will be the last 3 months of the year, it shows almost the same probability for La Nina as it does for a neutral phase, which is a sign that we will kind of be on the edge between a neutral phase and a La Nina, which once again, that's a sign that we will still be in a neutral phase, but those water temperatures will be closer to a La Nina, which once again, that's a sign that we could be seeing a more active hurricane season this year, which we will need to keep an eye on very closely, as I do think this summer will be a little bit different. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, as we will continue to keep you guys up to date with the latest, and I do put a lot of work into making these long-range forecasts for you all, so consider subscribing to the channel. We really appreciate your guys' support, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday out there, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.